If you or a loved one were dying a slow and painful death, would you want the option to end your life at your own will in order to stop suffering? Then take euthanasia or physician-assisted suicide into consideration. Now, you might consider that suicide in a way, but is it technically suicide if you only have a while to live and are in constant pain or in a vegetative state that does not really allow you to live? So why should people or a responsible family member be given the option of euthanasia? The 3 reasons are that the patient should have freedom of choice. It is less painful for family and friends, so they don't have to see their loved one in pain over and over and over again. And there are many misconceptions that exist to sway and scare people away from legalizing euthanasia, but those are easily dispelled. So let's begin with the first reason. A patient should be allowed the option of dying with dignity and have their own choice once diagnosed with an ill condition. Noel Conway, who suffers from motor neuron disease, is a prime example of how people who have a very short time to live feel about the law and having a choice over their own death. Conway's life expectancy is 2 to 5 years, but he has become so vulnerable that he is no longer able to walk and has to be hoisted from his bed to a chair and also has difficulty breathing. On the campaign for Dignity in Dying, Conway said, "I strongly believe that we should all have the right to control our own lives, and especially the means and manner of our death." So if euthanasia was legalized, then people such as Conway would not have to suffer any longer than they should. Patients would be able to die with dignity and would not have to suffer through a debilitating illness. On the campaign, Conway also said, "It's a question of whether I die with or without suffering, and on my own terms." Now, the second reason. The pain of a family member or a friend goes through while watching over a sick loved one can be difficult to endure. In a personal story posted in the New York Times, Sarah Lyle discusses the pain someone goes through when having a terminally ill loved one. In this case, it's her mother, who suffered from stage 4 lung cancer. In the post, she said, "Gradually, the illness took hold, the inevitable became less abstract, and the jokes stopped. Mom had vivid dreams of death, so awful that she could not bring herself to describe them. She became too weak to leave her bed, more of her independence seeping out each day, like air from a balloon. Her world closed in." So with a law that aids ill patients with an option of euthanasia, then the patients would not have to be in so much pain or, as in Lyle's case, be forced into seeing the loved one constantly want to wish death upon herself. In the post, she also said, "I am not a doctor. I am not very brave. I am just a person who wants the most important thing that her mother has ever asked of her, which is to stop the pain, so dying. Seeing a loved one slowly deteriorating and not being able to help or stop their pain because of the law can be difficult." And now, the final reason. Although many misconceptions exist that sway and scare people away from legalizing euthanasia, those can easily be dispelled. Those who oppose legalization of euthanasia believe just anyone can request being euthanized. However, that is not true. In fact, on a study done in Netherlands on the Gale Academic One file, most requests for euthanasia were refused because the lack of reasonable alternatives was not considered to be met. So the opposition could be comforted knowing that you have to have a good reason to go through with euthanasia. Although many oppose, there have been those who are starting to change their minds and take into account that a sick individual should be able to choose not to suffer any longer if there are no hopes of a better life. According to the Medical News Today, in 2017, a Gallup poll indicated that 73% of respondents were in favor of euthanasia in the U.S., and 67% were in favor of doctor-assisted suicide, which I can show you right here in this graph. You can see as of 2017, 73% were on board with euthanasia. So let's review why you should petition lawmakers to legalize euthanasia. There are many reasons to oppose the legalization of euthanasia. However, many reasons exist to favor legalizing it, such as the patient's freedom of choice, the suffering that a family or friend has to go through, and how many of the misconceptions can be debunked. The takeaway here is to remember that committing to euthanasia is the patient's choice, and allowing euthanasia only increases their freedom as the control from their lives slip away. Done.